everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Elle, how are you, darling?
I'm good. I see you've got your mug on the table, all unsightly in our video.
Crap. See, we just do things live here. F it, we're doing it live.
We just fly by the seat of our pants around these parts.
If you ever want to see the water bottle I drink out of, it's some Amazon special garbage. So there's probably lead in it. I think actually it's not even for sale anymore because there was probably lead found in it.
I think that was the one we got my brother.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if I told him about that recall.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Nothing to see here.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, if you're listening, brother-in-law, just stop drinking out of that. I'm still drinking out of it, so it's got to be okay.
I got home from work. I threw a Uncrustables peanut butter and jelly sandwich down my gullet, and by golly, I'm ready to record.
Well, that's really exciting.
It is.
Good. So what's been going on with you this week? You had a little issue with your sourdough.
Oh, yeah. I had a little scare there. My sourdough starter, I thought she was dead. And her name is Rosemary. And I've had her for, I don't know, maybe 4 months. And suddenly she just kind of puttered out. She got sluggish. She got tired, kind of like me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, she's not bubbling. She's not rising. Oh, this was like a whole thing in my day yesterday. I was very stressed out.
You're not joking. Before each show, we always say, what are we going to talk about today for our banter? And you didn't even bring that up. But all I got to do is think of what is stressing Allison out right now.
And there's always something.
Yeah, always.
So she perked back up. I fed her, all that good stuff.
And
my coworker was saying she thought about doing a sourdough starter, but she was afraid it was too much work. But I said it's really not. I really only feed mine maybe once a week when I use it. I've been using it more often, but I've been using it for cookies and, obviously breads, but I like it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. The downside is always having freaking cookies available. It's like, if it's not chocolate chip cookies, it's peanut butter cookies, like just throw it away. You don't need to be making cookies all the time.
But it's nice. I have a little cookie dome in our kitchen. It just feels like home to me.
Yeah. And the problem is that my fat belly feels like home and it's getting bigger and bigger. And you would think, Mike, just stop eating. But what I say is that it's kind of like a drug addict. It's kind of just sitting there. It's like, would you ever just put like cocaine in front of somebody who just got off of a cocaine binge?
Who just came out of rehab?
Yeah. It's like, you wouldn't do that. So, but here we are putting cookies in front of Mike and it's the same thing.
I know. I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, they're delicious. So you're doing it for love. So
and you were talking about how I give you this polite smile that I would give a stranger on the streets.
I actually made a TikTok about that today.
Did you?
Yeah. You know that smile, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm about to do it. It's just like, it's like that, just bringing up the sides of your mouth, like no teeth or anything. Like just if you were at work and you passed a coworker that you barely talk to, it's that smile. Like
probably not even a coworker you barely talk to, like somebody that, like, I work in a hospital, so there's thousands and thousands of employees. Easy for me to say. So obviously I don't know everyone, and if I walk past a stranger, I'll do that smile and say good morning.
Yeah, or a stranger in the street. That's a better one. Just like hello.
Mike's always like, please don't ever look at me like that again.
And it's not like bad. It's just like such an empty smile. Like just like, okay, we've been married 23 years. We've been together 30. Like, give me a little something more.
I don't know why I do that. I have no idea. I'm just a cold, wicked, frigid bitch.
No. It's just a natural thing. It's no big deal. And my thing, I've been doing TikToks. I know we mentioned it already, and you're gonna be like, Mike, we talked about it in the last episode, but I'm still doing them. And
Mike, we talked about this in the last episode.
Why are you saying it again? Because my memory's bad, and sometimes I don't remember that we say things.
But it's okay.
Yeah, if you want to follow me at Decent Guy Mike, decent.guy.mike on TikTok.
Oh, now he's very open about sharing, because last week you were very tight-lipped.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to keep it a secret a little bit. Like I wanted to, I don't know, just like grow organically. And it kind of feels like cheating since this has a lot more listeners or whatever.
It's not cheating.
Yeah, I don't know. So it might be stupid. If you hate it, then maybe, who knows? Maybe you'll think I'm a piece of garbage. So yeah.
Nothing is for everybody. No. And that's okay.
Absolutely. We're all, like what I really like about sharing on TikTok, like, I don't even care if I get a ton of followers. It's just more about like my creativity has sparked like crazy. So every time I'm walking around, I'm just like, oh, I can make a video about this or this or this or this. Like, I don't know if you guys saw on our TikTok channel, but I made a video just like for the first time in months probably about the Liver King. He's that guy that got arrested. And if you don't know about him, he's called the Liver King because he eats liver, and he said that that's the reason that he's so jacked, because he just eats like organ meats and stuff. Turned out that he was spending allegedly $11,000 every month on steroids.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So he was arrested in Texas. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but like I made a video and it popped off. It had like 200, 300,000 views. And I was just like, that's because I was doing TikToks on my own. Now I'm like, oh, I'll do a TikTok for this.
Yeah. You're more natural at it than I am.
Yeah. So you probably see me a little bit more on the old TikTok.
So on that note, we should probably jump into this case. It is a doozy and there's a lot of information to cover. So this is murders in a DC mansion. So on the afternoon of Thursday, May 14th, 2015, smoke and flames began billowing from a home in a neighborhood that was situated in the northwest quadrant of Washington, D.C. A passerby ran to the home once they saw the smoke and the flames and began banging on the front door, but there was no answer, although he could hear that there was an alarm ringing from inside the house. So he called 911, and this call was placed at 1:24 p.m., and first responders quickly arrived at this multi-million-dollar home on 3201 Woodland Drive. So as firefighters entered the home, they found an upstairs bedroom that was engulfed in flames, and they began searching the second floor, unsure even at this point in time if the home's residents were there. So a firefighter began crawling across the floor of another bedroom, and they were blinded by the thick, dark smoke. And they came upon what felt like a person sitting in a chair. But as he began to grapple to try to pick this person up, their body just fell through his hands. So once the smoke began to clear, the firefighter was horrified by what he saw. He basically likened to the scene of a bloodbath. So he radioed and said, "This is a crime scene." So he discovered 3 adult victims in one room, and each was bound to a chair. One was still clinging to life. Blood covered the floor of the bedroom where 46-year-old Savvas Savopoulos, his wife, 47-year-old Amy Savopoulos, and their housekeeper, this is 57-year-old Vera Figueroa, were bound. And meanwhile, there was a bloody bat that lay discarded on the bed. So the odor of gasoline, it hung very heavily in the air, and it was obvious that the fire began in the bedroom where, sadly, Sava and Amy's 10-year-old son, Philip, was in.
Oh, no, it's always even worse. Gosh, it's terrible.
So sadly, Sava, Amy, and Philip were all pronounced dead at the scene. While Vera was given CPR, she was transported to the hospital, and she tragically later was pronounced dead. So now we are in this house that this fire has started in, and there is a quadruple homicide. So investigators soon realized that Amy's blue Porsche was also missing, but they soon found it. It was burning in a church parking lot in nearby Maryland, and there was actually footage of someone wearing all black running away from that area. So the medical examiner later testified that all 4 victims had been stabbed while the three adults, had been beaten with a baseball bat. And of course, the first responder saw that baseball bat sitting there. Philip was given this baseball bat as a birthday present. It actually had his name engraved on it. It was a gift from his grandfather. The adults were restrained. They were doused with gasoline. Sava and Vera were also strangled. Both Amy and Sava died before the fire began, though due to the extent of burns on Philip's body, it could not be determined whether this was the case for him or not, and you could just shudder to think if he had been burned alive. Firefighter Corey Goetz testified that he found the young boy on a mattress in an upstairs bedroom that nearly burned through the room's floorboards. A team of fire investigators determined that the fire had started on the bed where this little precious boy lay, and gasoline was used to intensify the flames. So they did not find a gas can or any kind of holder, a bucket, something like that at the scene. They did find matches. So Philip had been stabbed multiple times in the abdomen, likely with a samurai sword from his father's martial arts collection. Vera had the fewest of the injuries, but she did have a history of heart disease, and the medical examiner speculated that she may have suffered a heart attack during this whole horrific incident. So investigators liken the scene inside the home to that of a war zone. And what happened that day shook not only this once peaceful community at our nation's capital in the United States, but truly anyone who heard the story. And I did hear about this story years ago on one podcast, and it just stuck with me. So I thought I wanted to cover this case.
Yeah, and what's really weird is they had used items from the house that they were in. So it wasn't like somebody brought some knives in or a samurai sword or a bat. It's like they were there already. So I'm automatically thinking it's somebody within the family, somebody that knows them very well. And also the Washington, D.C. area is very affluent. A lot of money there. There's a lot of, poorness too, but this is probably an area with a housekeeper that had a lot of money, I would guess.
Yeah, they had multiple housekeepers. They were very, very wealthy. But the details of this case and all of the people that actually came to the house and had even distant interaction throughout this whole event just makes this case one that once you hear it, you cannot forget about it. So in May of 2015, before this fire began, like many parents of school-aged children, Sava and Amy, they were looking forward to the school year starting to wind down into summer break. They were excited about the calmer schedules, which meant extra time together as a family of 5. Weeks before their deaths, they were chatting with friends at a get-together, and they were just commenting, like we all do as parents, how quickly time is flying by and how fast the children are growing up. So the couple's 2 daughters, this is 19-year-old Abigail and 16-year-old Katerina, they were away and they were attending high school at the Petty School, and this is a private boarding school in New Jersey. Abigail was only 2 weeks shy of graduating. She was really looking forward to this. While Katerina was a junior, she had her mind just set on prom and excitement. And she was beginning to look at colleges. There was just so much ahead. 10-year-old Philip, who was fondly known to family and friends as Flip, he was finishing 4th grade at the place he attended. It was a private all-boys school of St. Albans. This is right there in Washington, D.C. So Sava and Amy, they had met during their college days at the University of Maryland. And Sava here was in a fraternity. She was in a sorority. He was immediately captivated with her. And really throughout their 4 years of college, he just had this huge crush on Amy. He always pursued her, probably flirted with her. But nearing graduation, Amy finally agreed. They went out and it was just immediate chemistry.
And she's like, I've had enough. You've done enough over the past 4 years. Time to give you an opportunity.
So as soon as they finally did go out on that date, it was just apparent that they just clicked. So as soon as they began dating, they were quickly seen that they were meant to be together. And friends even described them as peanut butter and jelly and 2 peas in a pod, which to me is just, there's nothing cuter than like a sweet, precious couple who complements each other.
Yeah, I'm smiling just thinking about it.
So the couple were married on June 4th, 1994 at St. Sophia Greek Orthodox Cathedral in what was described as a typical big fat Greek wedding. They had a blast. Everyone had a ball. And then over more than 2 decades, Sava and Amy built a life together that was filled with happiness. It had such a strong foundation of love. They truly enjoyed each other. The daughter, Katerina, mentioned that sometimes she would wake up in the morning on the weekend to her mom just gasping with laughter because her dad just cracked her up.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That's just so sweet. So despite the fact that Sava went on to obtain a law degree from American University, his love of engineering and innovative ideas really just shone through, and he went on to become the CEO of his father's lucrative company. This is American Iron Works. And it's a leading manufacturer for custom-made metals. So basically like the metal structures of many buildings and bridges and things like that. He was also the CEO of Sigma Investment Strategies. Super, super financial, but super, super down to earth. Everyone that met this couple said they were the kindest, most down to earth people. You would have never realized how wealthy they were just because they were so down to earth. So meanwhile, Amy worked at an accounting firm for a number of years, but then as their family began to grow, she became an active volunteer at her children's schools, as well as within the community. And they were all known to be very selfless. Amy was so generous. She organized many community fundraisers, as well as just gathering the neighborhood together. So as the couple welcomed their 3 children into their lives, they were exceptionally tight-knit group. And despite their extensive schedules and, successes, Sava and Amy always put the children first. They were very hands-on. They were driven by their children and the greater good of their family unit.
If there's one thing I learned from my big fat Greek wedding is that Greeks really love to stick together. Their family, community, all that kind of stuff. Like they usually, a lot of family get-togethers. Right.
And I love that. And they did. They really nurtured their kids. If their kids were interested in something, they truly supported that. So Abigail and Katerina, they were known to dote on their little brother, and he was said to be mature beyond his years. Someone was commenting on the last dinner they had together with Sava and Philip, and a waiter came around and asked Philip, would you like any bread? And he's like, I should probably watch my carbs this week. And this is a 10-year-old little boy.
Adorable.
So Philip loved sports. He played in the outfield for his Little League baseball team, but truly his real passion was racing. He dreamed that one day he would become a professional Formula One racer. And this was something that Amy and Sava, they supported. So he was a member of the Praga North American karting racing team, and he went on to compete at various tracks. He had recently been in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as Phoenix, Arizona. And actually, at this point in time, he was recovering from a concussion. He was out in Arizona racing on May 3rd, and he got into an accident, and I guess he hit his head. So he was actively recovering at this point in time.
Racing actually just recently became really popular. A quick side note, like the amount of work that those racers have to do for their neck and head to prevent those kind of injuries is insane. Like you can see them in a car, like pulling against something just to be able to like strengthen their necks. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So Sava's professional successes afforded he and his family a $4.5 million mansion near the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. It was situated only a few blocks away from the home of where the Vice President of the United States lives, as well as several embassies. So this is in the affluent Woodley Park community. So they had a 5-bedroom, 6-bathroom home. It was fully brick. It was surrounded by beautiful landscaping. It had a library as well as a music room. I think the house was over like 100 years old. So this house that was once filled with laughter and love was now a scene from the most unimaginable horror movie you could ever imagine. As investigators began to sift through evidence and circumstances leading up to the murders, what they discovered painted an unthinkable picture. These 4 innocent victims had been held hostage and likely tortured over as many as 22 hours inside this home before their eventual violent murders. So they theorize that this person or people broke into the home sometime between 11:29 a.m. and 3:14 p.m. on Wednesday, the day before the fire was raging through the house. So Sava and Amy's other housekeeper, this is Nelitza or Nelly Gutierrez. She worked for the family over the past 20 years, and she was able to give investigators new insight into the case's mysterious circumstances and fill in some of the gaps here. So based on a string of strange phone calls that began on Wednesday, May 13th, she believes that the person or people that were responsible had likely broken into the Savopoulos home that day, one day before the fire, when she started getting these texts that to her just seemed a little bit strange. And you will come to find out one of the most chilling things about this case is that there was so much interaction. There were red flags raised. There was potential that this family could have been possibly saved, but because there was a sense of normalcy with what the interactions were, the alarm was never sounded until the fire started to blaze.
It's like, how many times have we seen, like, hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I should have done something. But it's like, everybody's going about their day, doing their own things. Like, oh, this is kind of weird. I'll ask them about it when I see them next time. You're not like, oh, I better call 911. This sounds a little bit weird.
Never in your wildest dreams would you ever think that something like this was going on. So Nellie became part of the Savopoulos family and had grown to love and adore them throughout, again, 2 decades. So they didn't even have their children at this point in time. So I'm sure she looked at those children like they were like her nieces or nephews or her grandchildren or something.
Absolutely. She's a family member.
Right. So she typically worked on Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes Wednesdays, depending if Vera and Amy needed the extra help. So 5 years earlier, she had gotten her close friend, this is Veralicia or Vera Figueroa, one of the victims that was found in the home. She got the job, got Vera the job with the family. And Vera was a wife and a mother of 2, and she used her income to support her family back in El Salvador. So in the time that she had been working with the family, they had grown to love Vera as well. She became a fixture in their home. And according to Katerina, Vera was a constant in her life, and she was someone that was incredibly strong, kind, and selfless. And she had gotten the flu sometime after this horrible tragedy, and it made her cry because she remembered how Vera would always check on her and make her this delicious soup that made her feel better, and now she was gone. So according to Nellie, Vera was always a happy woman who truly cared about her job. She was incredibly responsible. So the last time Nellie spoke with Vera was 2 days earlier on Tuesday night. This is May 12th. So she said that she was working with the family at their home on Wednesday until 3 o'clock, but this was totally typical. This was her normal schedule. So Wednesday began as a busy but normal weekday in the Savopoulos home. Just before 7 a.m., Sava was texting with his middle child, Katerina, and they were just exceptionally close. Neither of them slept very well at night. They were both night owls. So with this, they were often catching up and chatting and having phone calls during the middle of the night. So that morning, Katerina was texting with her dad about her upcoming prom and the fact that she wanted to ask a boy to the dance. And she wrote to her dad, "Gender roles are stupid." And then at 6:59 a.m., Sava replied, "Good job. Remember to hold the door for him since gender roles are stupid. Really glad you're going. Have fun." And Katerina went on to text her dad a few more times both that day as well as the following morning, but that was the last response she ever received from her father. So Sava left that morning to head to this new martial arts studio that he was preparing to open. And this was in Chantilly, Virginia. And this was something that he had always dreamed of doing because he had such a love of martial arts. So they were rushing to prepare for this grand opening. So Amy called Nellie on Mother's Day. This is May 9th, but Nellie at the time was out to lunch with her son, so she left her a voicemail. And Amy was asking Nellie, "Hey, can you help us out on Wednesday? But rather than coming to the house, can you go to the dojo to help Sava out to get it ready?" So Nellie headed over as planned on Wednesday. And while Vera was supposed to go with her, she changed her mind at the very last minute. And this was something that was surprising since her friend was always so agreeable. Vera also preferred to work side by side with Nellie because Nellie helped with translating because Vera was mostly Spanish speaking. So she just felt more comfortable because Nellie could help her out with that conversation. So she called Vera to kind of just check in, see what was going on, but she never heard back from her. So meanwhile, rather than going to school that morning as he normally would, Philip was actually staying home that day. And that was because he had a dermatology appointment that morning to address potentially removing a scar on his face. So Amy took him to his appointment at an office that was 20 minutes away in Maryland, and they were depicted on surveillance at the office, and her Range Rover entered the parking garage at 9:09, and it left to head home at 10:45 a.m. So since his appointment was in the morning, there was question maybe if it was a quick appointment, he would still go to school that day. And his teacher actually texted Amy right around 12:30 p.m., saying, it's getting late in the day. It might not make sense for Philip to even come in today. But Amy never responded to that text. So Amy left Philip at home sometime that afternoon. We're not exactly sure when. She went out to take a walk by herself, and her friend, this is Margaret Pressler, she saw her while she was driving by. And Amy, in the past several years, had gotten big into fitness. She loved walking, and she was often wearing her athletic clothes so that she was ready to go at a moment's notice. So Margaret remembers the moment clearly for a couple of reasons. She was surprised to see that this time Amy was wearing a khaki skirt with a cardigan over her shoulders, and she was holding her brown leather purse. So since Amy was a self-proclaimed coffee addict, she was likely grabbing a cup from the local Starbucks before Vera would normally leave at her usual time of 3 p.m. So Margaret knows for sure that she saw Amy at 3:25 p.m. based on a phone call that she was on at the time. So at this moment, she watched her friend cross the street and prepare to walk up the hill towards where her house was situated. And Margaret was likely the last person to see Amy alive. So this would mean that had it been a normal day, Vera would have been about 30 minutes late ending her shift. So I will tell you, there are a lot of questions that will probably never be answered. Like, why would Amy be out at 3:25 if Vera normally left at 3? We don't know. So investigators believe that while Amy was out walking, an intruder broke into the home or was perhaps let into the home, held Vera and Philip captive, cut the phone lines, and then waited. So had Philip not missed school this day, that's just another sad detail. At this point in time, he would have still been away. He would have been at an after-school activity. So based on evidence found in the home, it's likely that as Amy came in through the front door, she set her Starbucks cup down on a wooden bureau that was in their entryway because you could see that it was there, and her purse was sitting on a nearby chair. And we know she was carrying that purse because Margaret saw her. And then it was likely at this point in time that she was taken captive. So Amy and Sava, they had recently installed this really new, sophisticated security system. However, at that point in time, it was daytime and it may not have been armed as it normally would have. People are in and out of the house coming and going. So investigators also questioned if maybe the perpetrator either had been willingly let in or knew the family, like you mentioned. So it's unclear exactly when the phone lines were cut, but it was sometime before Amy returned home. The family often took their 2 Chesapeake Bay retrievers to a pet resort, and a receptionist called the house that day at 3:14 p.m. in order to confirm an upcoming reservation that the family had for their dogs over Memorial Day holiday. So the receptionist was unable to get through, and she noted in her logbook, home phone disconnected. So this company called a second time at 4:20 p.m. This time they called Amy's cell phone, but there was no answer at that point in time.
Okay, quick question, if you don't mind. You said Amy was seen in her car at 3...
No, she was walking.
Oh, walking. Okay, at 3:25 p.m., right?
She was at the bottom of the hill preparing to walk up the hill toward her house when Margaret saw her.
Okay, and she was wearing that khaki pants or what?
Khaki skirt.
And it's out of her character for her.
Normally, she would have been wearing her leisurely active wear.
Okay. The first thing that popped into my head is she was told to get something, like some money or something, but she wouldn't be by herself.
No,
so
they don't think that was the case. They think she was probably wearing what she was wearing just because of Philip's dermatology appointment that day, that she went out wearing that. And then maybe they got home and she's like, you know what? I'm going to go out and take a walk and get a coffee. It could have been something totally innocuous and innocent.
Okay.
So the point is that at 3:25, Amy was yet to be home, but we know the phone lines were cut before 3:14 because that's when the receptionist from the pet resort noted
And
home phone disconnected.
Vera was supposed to be gone at this point because she's off at 3:00.
She gets off at 3.
Okay, so likely that's when the intruder came in. Obviously the day before, right? This is the day.
This is the day the intruder came into the home.
Okay.
The phone line was cut sometime before 3:14 p.m.
Got it.
And maybe Amy was comfortable with 10-year-old Philip being in the house by himself. So maybe she thought, oh, Vera's going to leave at 3. I'll be home by 3:30. Philip's fine at 10 years old to be in the house by himself for a half hour.
Yeah. And the other thing, so you said likely somebody entered the home between 11:29 and 3 p.m. So if the phone was cut like closer to 3, then that was probably the time that they entered, right? You got to think?
We don't know exactly when the phone lines were cut. We just know it was done by 3:14 based on that phone call from the pet resort.
Okay, cool.
So the dogs were thankfully found unharmed after the fire, and it's unclear, though, how the intruder really entered the home and made it past the dogs, because the eldest of the dogs, this is Ginger, was known to be aggressive towards strangers. So meanwhile, Sava was busy. He's out of the house, and he is at the dojo in a frenzy of activity because they're trying to get everything set up. And not only was Nellie over there helping him, but he also had his personal assistant. This is Jordan Wallace, and Jordan's name will come back around again. So he met Jordan at the racing track where he coached Philip. And 2 months earlier, Jordan actually texted Sava that he could no longer coach Philip since he was fired after he asked for $1 an hour more a raise. So the next day, Sava, this is just the type of people they are. Sava gets a hold of him and says, you know what? I really need an assistant. I will give you the money you were asking for. I'll match it, what you were looking for at the racetrack. On top of that, I'm going to give you benefits and a 401k.
Wow.
So that's how Jordan came to work with Sava.
What an opportunity.
So according to cell phone records, Amy called her husband at 4:38 p.m. and asked him to come home. So while they were speaking, Nellie was right there within earshot, and she said that Sava was cracking jokes, as he often did. He was teasing, her specifically, telling Amy, I'm just so behind because Nellie's been lazy. She showed up late.
Yeah, she knows she's right there listening.
Exactly. Yeah. So regardless, he was very reluctant to leave since he had so much work ahead of him, but he eventually agreed, and he told Nellie that Amy had plans to go out that evening with friends, so he needed to go home and be with Philip. So he left the studio at 5:30 p.m. So Sava left Nellie with instructions as to how to lock up before she left for the night. And then once he was gone, the group that was there were just discussing amongst themselves. Gosh, that's so weird that Amy would call him away for a night out with friends, knowing that we are opening this studio for the grand opening in 2 short days. That's so strange.
Also kind of speaks to the man that he is. Like, he's willing to drop the most important thing in his life because his wife is requesting that he come home. Not, it's not like, yes, whatever you say, darling, but it's like it was important to her. So he dropped his thing and went to go see her.
And I thought that too while I was researching. watching, I'm like, man, it just kind of goes to show what kind of family they were, because I'm sure he was a very busy guy, which, left Amy dealing with a lot of the around the house things, and you never get off from being a parent. So it just goes to show what kind of relationship that he was willing to go home despite the fact that they were buried over at the dojo. And Nellie just cannot shake the last image she has of the boss that she worked for so many years, that she had grown so fond of, as he walked out of the studio that evening. And looking back, it was clear that Amy's captor had forced her to make that phone call that lured the love of her life to his eventual death. So only minutes later, Amy called the pet resort back and spoke with the receptionist, who later testified that the normally bubbly, happy woman just didn't sound like herself. She said that she sounded sleepy, as Amy explained that they would not need any of the extra services that the pet resort offered, I should say, while the dogs were there, because sometimes they would groom and whatever with them. She said, nope, we'll just keep them there. You can charge it to the credit card that's on file. So the call was otherwise unremarkable and did not give the receptionist any cause for alarm. And this is just one of the many phone calls that happen during the time that this family in Vera is held hostage.
How would the captors know that the dogs are gone to this place and that she needs to call them?
They would only know that because the pet place called Amy's cell phone at 4:20 p.m. and they're trying to minimize anyone
looking for her.
Exactly. So reflecting on texts that were sent, phone calls that were made, and voicemails that were left while the family was being held captive, they were remarkably calm despite these circumstances. I mean, unbelievably calm. We will play the audio from these calls. There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that they were utterly terrified, but they somehow managed to hold it together with the goal of protecting their 10-year-old son, who they loved with everything, hoping and praying that their kidnapper would just allow them to live once they got whatever it is that they wanted. So shortly before 6 p.m., this is about an hour and a half after Sava talked to Amy at the dojo, just about a half hour or so before he headed home, the home security system sent out 3 quick alerts. So the system recorded the sound of breaking glass at 5:56, 5:57, and 5:59 p.m., but the system was not fully activated and the alerts weren't being actively monitored at that point in time. So the studio in Chantilly, where Sava was coming from, was about 45 minutes away from home. And according to cell phone data, it indicated that Sava would have arrived home sometime right about 6:30 p.m. So it's unclear exactly what happened as he entered the home, but it's likely that he was attacked as he came through the kitchen door at the back of the house, as traces of his blood were found on that door. So his red briefcase was found toppled over near the front hall, just off the kitchen, while his keys were dropped on the floor. So it's unknown if the 4 victims were held in the same location of the house for the majority of the time, how it was exactly that things went down throughout the 20 plus hours that this killer was holding them captive. But first responders found Sava, Amy, and Vera in Abigail's bedroom, while Philip was found in Katerina's bedroom. Based on residual adhesives that were found on the chairs in the room, Vera and Amy's hands and ankles had been bound to the chair with duct tape, while Sava was bound with zip ties. Based on bruising to their arms and legs, each one of them were fighting against the restraints. And bruising to Amy's right middle finger was consistent with her attacker pulling a ring off. So based on text messages and call logs, it was clear that the motive behind all of this was money. Shortly before 8 p.m., Sava called his sister. This is Deborah Masser. She lived in Sarasota, Florida, and she worked remotely for the family business. She handled a lot of the money. So he explained that he needed to withdraw somewhere between $35,000 to $50,000. And this was not something that, according to Debbie, was unusual, because her brother often needed to purchase these expensive pieces of equipment for their business. So despite the fact that she suggested doing the withdrawal as a cashier's check, he insisted that it would need to be cash. And this was something that she did find strange, but nothing else seemed concerning, and her brother sounded exactly like he always did. She explained that since the banks were closed at that point in time, they would just have to wait until the following morning. So when Sava left a message for his assistant, Jordan Wallace, this happened at 8:27 p.m., he sounded completely normal. He even made a joke about how Jordan needed to update his voicemail since it still indicated that he worked for the racetrack. So he explained the change of plans for the following morning.
Hey, Jordan, it's Sava. Time to change your voicemail. It still says you're at Autobahn. Slight change of plans tomorrow. Instead of going out to Chantilly and helping me put that thing together, would you please go straight to the Hyattsville office and wait? I've got a package that I'm going to need you to bring down to me, and probably won't be ready to leave the office until like 10 o'clock or so. But if you could just go in there and check on things like those eBay listings, et cetera, I'm sure we got plenty to do. And then I'll just be in touch with you when with some more details. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Man, he is like calm, cool, and collected. You have no idea that anything's going on in the background there. And like it just, he's such a businessman. You could just tell that like he's just acting how he always does.
Mm-hmm. And he knew somehow that he had to sound casual like this because, you know, ultimately we're dealing with a lot of cash here. The circumstances are a little strange. This is happening at night, but somehow he managed to keep that tone of voice as to not raise alarm. And it's so heartbreaking to think that he did that with a goal of protecting his child, which in the end didn't happen.
100%. And the other thing you mentioned, you know, 35 grand, that's not a ton to somebody that owns multiple businesses. Like that is, I was actually surprised that it was that little. I thought it could be a couple $100,000 or something like that. And maybe there's more to be said.
A lot of people did say that. And I don't know if the killer just didn't want to be too risky, unsure of what is a normal amount of money. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't want to be too risky, but you're willing to kill 4 people.
I'm not saying that this person is smart or anything good about them, but I don't know if they thought if they said maybe 100,000 that right away people would be like, what?
Right.
You know, they didn't want to push it. So minutes later, Jordan texted back confirming that he'd call him for further instructions once he got this package the next day. So at 9:14 p.m., Amy called Domino's and ordered 2 pizzas. So she actually spoke to the manager of the Domino's. She ordered 1 cheese and 1 pepperoni, as well as a bottle of soda. And she paid for the order, including the $5 tip for the driver, with her credit card over the phone. So she instructed the driver when they get to the house to just leave the order at the front door because she was inside caring for a sick child. So the driver later testified that when he arrived at the house, the lights were off inside, but the porch light was illuminated. He did as instructed. He placed the order on the porch before leaving the property. And the fact that the killer had taken the time amidst all of this violence and torment and torture to order pizza is just an added level of chill and just disturbingness. I know that's not the right word to use.
Well,
but
I mean, you got to eat, right? So he's probably just like, oh, I'm hungry, so order me 2 pizzas. And meanwhile, I'm sure all of them are scared for their lives. But, it's just terrible.
And then to think that this delivery driver is on the other side of a door where all of this is happening inside and nobody has any idea. So based on a series of calls to the company that installed the home security system, both that night as well as early the next morning. And when I say early the next morning, I'm saying the phone call started at like 6:30 in the morning. And some of these calls at night were happening maybe as late as like 10:30, 11. So it's believed that when this intruder went out to the front porch to retrieve the order, the motion engaged the security camera that sat above the front door. And he probably realized that. So when Sava got through on Wednesday night, he asked the owner of the company or whoever it was many questions about how the cameras were activated, where the videos were stored. Did they go to the cloud? How do we retrieve the videos? So the guy explained, the security system is set to record when motion's detected. It's stored not on the cloud, but on the home's computer hard drive, which is situated in the utility room up on the 3rd floor. So whether the video did capture images of this intruder, it's unknown because the hard drive was stolen from the house. It has never been found.
Nope. I saw those cameras and that's gone. Like
Gone.
if there's no backup in the cloud, it's gone.
Yep. So the number of phone calls placed to the company did seem strange, not only just because of the sheer volume of calls, but also just the late hour and early morning that it came through. But once again, on these phone calls, the owner said that Savva sounded super calm and nothing sounded suspicious. So at 9:35 p.m., Savva left a voicemail for Nellie explaining that Amy had been in bed sick that day, so Vera was staying overnight to help out.
Hey, Nellie, it's Savva. I hope you get this message. Amy is in bed sick tonight, and she was sick this afternoon, and Vera offered to stay and help her out because, we're going through some stuff with Philip. So she's going to stay the night here, but Vera's phone died, and she doesn't have her charger, and I don't have a charger that fits her phone. So I don't know if you can tell anybody that would be worried about her that she's just going to be here with us tonight, okay? Thank you. Oh, and would you send me a text when you get the message just so I can make sure? Thanks, Nellie. Good night.
There's also an enhanced version of this phone call, and in the back, you can actually hear a commotion and maybe someone yelling. My thought would be that it was Philip.
Is it right before at the end of it? Because as he was coming back, he goes, oh, one more thing. Send back a text.
It was earlier than that.
Okay.
It's Savva. I hope you get this message. Amy is in bed sick tonight, and she was sick this afternoon, and Vera offered to stay and help her out. So she's going to stay the night here.
Oh, yeah. You can definitely hear, like, it sounds like Philip. It sounds like, keep your hands off me, or something's happening. And he's trying to I picture him, trying to get away or something like that.
Yeah. It's just so heartbreaking. Oh, sorry. Think that
you think of your own kid and you're standing there and it's like, man, like, you just wish you could talk to him and be like, man, you're going to die if you don't do something. Like, please go down swinging, please.
And I just think that this is at 9:35 p.m. that this phone call happened. What went on between, say, 11 at night until 6 in the morning? Did they sleep? Did they wake up and think like, oh my gosh, we're still in this? Like, this is not a dream. This is not a horrible nightmare. This is actually happening.
Yeah.
It's just so heartbreaking. And this is one of the cases, because I always say, people will ask me like, gosh, how do you do all this research and sleep at night? This is one of the cases that truly stuck with me. So when Nellie finally listened to Savva's voicemail, because she did not get it that night, she heard it the next morning. She was very puzzled because in the nearly 5 years that Vera had worked for the family, Monday through Friday full time, never one time had Vera spent the night. And it's not only that, but it also conflicted with the reason that he had to leave the dojo the night before. Because again, people were like, why would Amy call him away to go out with friends? That's so weird. She was going out with friends. That's why Savva was coming home. So there were things there. But once again, Savva sounded completely normal in tone. So despite the red flags that may have started to rise, she didn't think that anything was wrong. Well, she did feel unsettled, though.
The other thing is that Savva always has his stuff together, probably. He's probably just one of those guys that, like, knows what he wants to do and tells you right away, like, yep, can you do this, please? And then do this. And then, like, it's just like, well, I assume he knows what's going on. I assume there's something I'm not thinking about, that there's a reason for this.
Right. So concerned, though, she did call Vera twice just to kind of see what was going on, but each time it went to voicemail. So when Savva spoke with his sister again, this is Thursday morning, he clarified that exactly the amount that he would need, because he was a little bit more vague the night before, $35,000 to $50,000. This time he's saying, I need $40,000 in cash. So shortly before 8 a.m., he also got in touch with a woman at the Bank of America. She was very familiar with Savva because she worked often with him and his company. And, it's like somebody that doesn't deal with this kind of money, me, it's like you don't think that there's not just $40,000 sitting at every bank. Like, they had to call around to local banks to be like, hey, do you guys have the money? Do you?
Yeah, bring it together.
I never think about how something like that works.
It's unsafe, man. The only thing that could happen is somebody's going to come and rob you.
Right. So something about the request, it didn't sit right with this girl at Bank of America because he wanted it all in cash. And he sounded rushed, but overall, she did not feel it was her place to question her client.
Yeah, your job is to give people the money they want. You're holding their money, you give it to them.
Right. So she put her concerns aside and got everything squared away. So since Savva wasn't handling the withdrawal in person, he wasn't there to sign things. Things had to be drafted up and electronically signed, which was done. So meanwhile, Jordan met with Ted Chase. This is the company's CFO at the bank. And here you could see them on surveillance video withdrawing this $40,000 all in $100 bills. So throughout the multiple phone calls regarding the money, Sava continued to hold things together, as those he spoke with each testified that nothing in his tone was alarming. And at this point in time, he has been held with this person for about 14 hours. And I'm sure if he slept at all, it was not well. So meanwhile, Nellie was getting ready to leave. She was having her coffee. She was at home. She was going to another family's house to work that day, not the Savopoulos home. So she tried calling Vera again at 8:30, got no response from each of the 3 calls that she placed to her friend that morning. And again, she felt unsettled about what was going on, but you always try to make sense of what's happening. And she knew that Vera took a train that ran underground, and she thought maybe she's in there and she doesn't have reception. So shortly before 9 a.m., a technician from the sprinkler company rang the home's doorbell for a planned appointment, but no one answered. And then at 9:12 a.m., Amy called the manager of the company and explained that she would need to reschedule that appointment because her son was injured and she was with him at the hospital. So this person later testified that Amy sounded extremely nervous during this phone call. So meanwhile, Vera's husband, this is Bernardo Alfaro, he started to worry even the day before because, like I said, Vera normally got off of work at 3. And you know how long it takes. Oh, she's going to go down to the train. She'll take this one back. She's normally home at exactly this time. That didn't happen. So he continued to call her phone until it ultimately stopped ringing, but he never got a response from her. So he worked an overnight shift, so he had to leave on Wednesday evening to go to work. So now he's coming home on Thursday morning and he realizes his wife is still not home. So now he's terrified. So Bernardo and Vera's stepdaughter, this is Claudia, she went with Bernardo to the Savopoulos home. And while Claudia waited in the car, he went and knocked at the front door. And despite the fact that no one was answering, he got this sensation that someone was there. And he said he could hear a little noise that sounded like a chair scraping the floor. So knocking now for nearly 20 minutes, Bernardo walked back to his car and he was highly concerned. And he's standing at the car talking with Claudia, trying to consider what his next move was going to be. What's he going to do? So he turns from the car and goes back to the house. And as he's walking towards the front door now a second time, his phone starts to ring. And it's Sava, and he's profusely apologizing that he had forgotten to call Bernardo the night before. And he explained that Amy had gotten sick and Vera went with her to the hospital and they were there all night. So he said he was going to call him back after he spoke with the staff at the hospital to get an idea of how long Amy would be there, and then he'd call him back. But he didn't call him back, and when Bernardo called Sava again, he did not answer. So despite this explanation, he still felt unsettled. He said it just didn't make sense to him. Vera didn't speak very good English, so for her to be the person at the hospital with Amy just didn't make sense to him. And he thought about driving to the hospital, but there were a lot of hospitals in that area, and he wasn't sure which one, and Sava wasn't picking up. So he kind of just said, all right, well, I guess. And
he's stuck. Like he has to take his word for it. And
right.
It's like, what are you going to do from there? Like call the cops on this multi-million-dollar house and be like, oh, they kidnapped my wife. Like, no, because it's like, okay, I mean, that's got to be the answer. Like, what else is there?
And again, Vera had grown to love this family. They trusted this family. There was never a reason that Bernardo would think that something was going on with his wife.
Remind me, how long was she with the family? I know Nellie was with them for a long time.
5 years.
Okay, so yeah, she's like a member of the family too. It's crazy. Like it's you know these people, you trust these people, you trust your wife says they're great people. So you're like, okay, I'm sure he's telling me the truth.
So looking back, call logs later proved that Sava had misdialed Bernardo's number 3 times before he actually got it right.
You just think that, man, he's just nervous and just trying to get it. And that sucks.
Yeah. So Sava called Jordan at 9:51 a.m. and instructed him to call when he was 10 minutes away from the house. So once inside his car, Jordan took a photo of the bundle of cash. He texted it to his girlfriend and then he promptly deleted it. And he later commented, people ask, like, why did you do that? He's like, I've never seen that amount of cash in my life in one spot.
Oh, I totally get it. You're like, holy crap, look at me. Look, I'm a baller. I just made 40 grand. You pretend or whatever, be like, oh crap, wait, my boss is going to hate that I'm sending this and I shouldn't do this. So I'm going to delete it right away.
Right. And he did.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's going through.
And $40,000 is a lot of money. I mean, it's what people sometimes make over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there holding it with him in his car. So at 9:56 a.m., Amy texted Nellie, despite the fact that Nellie had no plans to go to the house that day, but likely fearful that she could potentially pop by and knowing that she had a set of keys to the house. So she wrote, I'm making sure that you don't come today. If you could come on, or she actually misspelled. She said, if you could come from or Monday, that would be great. So meaning Friday or Monday. So Nellie was like, that's weird. I never intended to go over there today. And she wrote back at 10:38 a.m. confirming, sounds good. I'll see you on Monday. So Katerina was texting her dad a silly message around this exact same time about prom, but she never received a response. And it's just so haunting to think that as she's sitting at her school, she has absolutely no idea that this is going on in the house that she has lived in for like 14 years. So within 10 minutes of the house, Jordan did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he called. This was at 10:15 a.m., and Sava explained that he was on an important phone call so that he could not come to the door to meet Jordan and retrieve the cash from him. So he explained, you can go ahead and just leave the package on one of the car seats in the garage and then just go head to the dojo. So Jordan parked on the street across from the driveway, and he saw that the garage to the right was raised, and he placed the manila envelope that held the cash on the seat of this rare $700,000 red Mosler sports car. Apparently, there was only 3 ever made of this sports car. So he later testified that while he was in the garage, he never heard a single thing that sounded strange or alarming. So he pulled away from the home at 10:26 a.m., he sent a text that read, package delivered. And then he saw dots on the phone that indicated that Sava was typing a response, but no response actually did come through. So it's likely that Sava, Amy, Vera, and Philip were killed shortly after this money was dropped off. At 11:54 a.m., Sava's phone pinged off of a tower that was 10 minutes away, closer to the downtown area. We know that it was not Sava that was here. Shortly after noon, 2 employees from a home across the street saw a man going into the Savopoulos home through the garage. He wore a drawstring backpack and had dreadlocks. And this was the only time the perpetrator was ever seen at the home. And again, this isn't a neighborhood. Like the houses, it's like this, Washington, D.C., it's city-like.
Yeah.
So the houses are, they're near one another. So then at 1:07 p.m., the security system alerted to the sounds of breaking glass upstairs. And minutes later, the carbon monoxide system alerted, while additional alarms also started to sound. Smoke began to pour from the second story of the home at 1:24 p.m. when the first call was placed about the fire. So despite the killer setting the house on fire, and obviously we know that this person did this in order to erase any evidence, first responders were able to extinguish the fire quickly enough to allow investigators to recover vital evidence that led them to the person responsible very quickly.
Whoa, nice.
So DNA was found in multiple areas of the home. And one of the big things was this friggin' Domino's pizza that this monster, a-hole, despicable waste of a life ordered to munch on while holding people captive, beating and torturing them, including a child. He ate some pizza and didn't finish the slice.
Wow, thank God.
Thank goodness
Holy
for
cow.
idiots.
Yeah.
So he put his discarded piece of crust back in the Domino's box in the bedroom where the 3 adult victims were found. As well, they found his DNA on a construction vest, a knife that was used to prop the basement window open, as well as a piece of clothing that was found in Amy's car, which was also set on fire. 2 hairs were recovered from both a hard hat that was found in the garage. And what in the hell was he doing wearing a hard hat and a construction vest?
Well, I mean, you got to think that was his job or something, or had some kind of relation to it. Like, unless he's like, dressing up for a YMCA convention or something.
I mean, Savva's company deals with these heavy pieces of steel.
Yeah.
So the fact that Savva had the hard hat and the construction vest in his house might have just been part of his job.
Yeah,
it was a
that's true.
construction company. So I have a feeling this hard hat and vest was already there at the house. Like, what was he putting that on for?
I don't know, boredom, and just what a complete idiot. Like, to do this kind of thing in like this day and age where there's like so much potential proof, like he left his DNA absolutely everywhere, all over the place.
So they also found some DNA that was in the bedroom where the adult victims were held, and it was a hair. And it makes me wonder, because the hair was in the hard hat and the bed. Did he sleep in the bed while he had those victims tethered to the chairs?
Terrible to think about.
There's so much imagination here that's just terrible to think about, because there's gaps that you don't know what exactly happened in between these text messages and phone calls. What happened?
Well, initially I'm like, he couldn't afford to go to sleep, but if everybody's bound and gagged and everything, but yeah, I mean, if you want to make sure they don't get out, then you can't go to sleep.
So not only was the DNA processed incredibly quickly, but it was also a match to a person in the CODIS database, meaning he had a criminal record.
Okay, you dumbass criminals. If you have done some kind of crime and you're in this CODIS database, your fingerprints, your DNA, like, don't commit any other crimes. You're going to be caught, stupid.
So within 1 week, authorities arrested a suspect. This is 34-year-old Duran Dellin Dennis Wint, and he's a Guyana-born former Marine recruit who moved to the United States in 2000, and he had done some work in the past, but not recently, for Savvas' firm. So after a 48-hour manhunt, he was charged with first-degree murder while armed. So investigators learned that one day after the murders, this is on Friday, May 15th, Wint went to the gym with his friend and showed off $1,200 and $100 bills. And then later that evening, he called his friend and asked him if he would help him burn his minivan. And his friend said, "Nope, I don't think so."
No, man, it's all you. Good luck.
So shortly after, firefighters did find his minivan and it was on fire. So 2 days after the murders, Wint then fled D.C. and went to New York, where he stayed with his girlfriend. This is Vanessa Hales. So she later testified that he paid for their various shopping sprees using $100 bills. His cell phone also proved that he was doing a lot of searches about the murders, as well as other things like where to hide out, what cities to go to for fugitives. So while Wint and Vanessa were sitting in her apartment, they had the news on, and whose face pops up in relation to this horrible, horrible thing is his. So with this, he decided to leave Vanessa's place. He said he was going to go and turn himself in. He took a $900 taxi back to D.C., and he went to stay at his father's house. So with the help of the U.S. Marshals, because they were afraid he was going to flee back to Guyana.
Absolutely.
And they were like in hot pursuit of this guy.
And this is exactly why police don't put out evidence, because it's like, yeah, this guy knows now they're looking for him. It's like, oh man, I'm screwed. I better get out of here if I can.
Yeah, so they eventually did. They tracked him down at a Howard Johnson hotel, and there were 2 cars involved. I guess his brother was there with him. 2 cars fled, and they eventually captured him. They found $7,300 in the second car that his brother Darrell was riding in. So from the get-go, I will tell you, there was a lot of question, and even reported to the news right after these horrible murders, that possibly more than one person was involved in this. But you'll come to find that that's not the case. So despite this damning concrete evidence, this man, this lawyer, Robin Ficker, Wint's former attorney, apparently he worked with him on past charges or whatever, he was very outspoken to the national media about the innocence of Wint and what a gentle, kind, non-aggressive person he was. Someone you wouldn't mind your grandmother going and having lunch with. He's sitting on the news saying this, and I wanted to reach through and punch him in his stupid face.
Like, what's the reasoning for that? Were they lovers or something? Like,
No.
that's insane. Like, the dude was caught. Like, this was him 100%.
And by the way, he doesn't even like pizza and he doesn't even eat pizza, is what he's saying.
Okay, so it's definitely not him.
So this is a man who had not only left his DNA in multiple areas at the scene of this horrifically violent quadruple murder, but he also had a slew of past assault charges. So 12 years before the murders, Wint secured a job as a welder at Savvas company. But he left, and some reports said for unknown reasons, and others they said he was a crap worker, he was fired. But again, this is a long time ago. We're talking about 12 years earlier. The odds of him holding a grudge about being fired, it's likely not the case. So around this time, things began to take a downward spiral in his life. His own father obtained a protective order against him after he threatened to shoot him. Another relative said that he was known to be exceptionally hostile, arrogant, short fuse, someone you really don't want to be around. During an altercation with his cousin, after Wint refused to leave his home when asked, things escalated to the point of violence and Wint began to stab his cousin with a knife. He actually caught him in the arm, and he was arrested in order to stay away from his cousin. But while he was awaiting trial, he was free and he attacked him a second time. And this time he stabbed him in the neck. And when he was rushed to the hospital, the doctor told him, had he even been like a centimeter lower, you would have bled out. You would have died.
So he's clearly a very dangerous individual.
Highly dangerous man, likes to use a knife. So Wint was convicted and sent to jail for a short time. But then on his release, he quickly assaulted another couple. So he was arrested after threatening to kill his girlfriend, her daughter, and one of her friends, telling her that he was good with a knife and he could kill them easily. So despite these terrible threats, he was only convicted for smashing the windows of her car.
Ugh.
So in 2010, after the passage of 5 years since he'd been gone from Savvas company, all of a sudden he just shows up at American Iron Works. And he was found outside the company and the building with a machete, a BB gun, and a can of beer. So they called the police. And he was charged with concealing a deadly weapon, but then it came down that he was only fined $919 after he pleaded guilty for having an open container of alcohol.
Wow, Nate's got off easy, just time and time again. It's like, this is a super dangerous guy. We had opportunities to catch him and put him away, but couldn't.
It just boggles my mind that someone could show up at a company with a machete. That's so threatening.
Well, I mean, it's as long as he doesn't say, like, I want to kill somebody and whatever. It's just like, yeah, I just have a machete in my car and I'm drinking a beer. Well, what's wrong with that?
So as the next 5 years went by, Wint managed to avoid the system, but in the meantime, his own siblings kicked him out of their homes, and he became increasingly more desperate. So during the trial, which began in September of 2018 and lasted 6 weeks, Wint pleaded not guilty and testified over the course of about 5 hours, claiming that it was not him that had anything to do with what happened. It was his brothers, Darrell and Stefan, who were the actual perpetrators. So according to Wint, he left his house on Wednesday early in the morning. This is the day of the kidnappings. And he said he was going to meet up with Darrell, who asked for his help in painting a drywall project that he and Stefan were working on. But when he met up with Darrell at 6 a.m., he was told, oh no, plans change. We no longer need your help with this project, but we do need to borrow your minivan for the project. So Wint said that he ended up spending the day and night at his friend's house after he fell asleep from drinking too much. So you'll come to find that this guy has an answer for every piece of DNA he's tied to. So when Darrell picked him up now on Thursday morning, rather than driving his minivan, he shows up in this blue Porsche. So they drove to the job site. So right away, that blue Porsche, it's because they found his DNA in Amy's car. So he needs to explain that away. So they drove to the job site because he needed to help after all. And they entered the Savopoulos home, and he sat down at the dining room table while Darrell went upstairs. And then he came downstairs and he had a box of pizza. So he figured, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of pizza, but he put the rest back. He didn't want to finish it because it was cold. So he realized he left his phone in the Porsche, so he ran back out to get it. And when he came back in, Darrell gave him a hard hat and a construction vest. And told them that they were going to unload this house, which he took to mean we're going to rob it. And he told Darrell, I want no part of it. I'm leaving. and he left
I'm
and
a
went
good-
to find a bus because gosh darn it, he's a good guy.
Yeah, if there's no stabbing involved, I'm out. I'm not. Yeah, that's where I draw the line. If you wanted me to stab him, for sure. But if you want me to rob him, no, thank you.
No. So defense attorney Jeffrey Stein agreed that yes, DNA does not lie, but since the siblings shared the same mother, they would have the same DNA hair profile. Wint's DNA was not found on the baseball bat nor the samurai sword, both of which we knew were used in the murders.
It's interesting.
So Stein also suggested that more than one man was likely responsible since Wint alone couldn't have cut the phone wires, destroyed the house's security system, silenced the 2 family dogs, all the while holding 4 people captive. But he didn't take them all captive at once. He took 2, 1, and 1. And then, you can bind someone to a chair and then they stay.
Yeah.
So there was suggestion that Jordan Wallace may have been responsible because he was the one that got this money. But that really came down to be ridiculous because, the other thing that came back was they said that the passenger side of his seat smelled heavily of gasoline. Why that would be, I don't know. But we do know he was at the dojo on Wednesday when Sava was called to the house by Amy. He was there. Then Sava left him the message about the change of plans for the next day to go pick up this package. He was there picking it up. He had nothing to do with it. His alibi was solid. So meanwhile, prosecutors maintain that Wint had acted alone in the entirety of the crime. Wint later said that night he saw news coverage of this house fire turned homicide, and he said, "Oh my goodness, this is the house that Darrell took me to. I was at this house, and that's why I started to do these online searches." So, he searched how to pass a lie detector test because he wanted to be able to protect his brother if investigators tracked him down.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Good brother.
Yeah.
So he claimed that he did searches regarding where a fugitive can hide and burned his minivan because he feared that it could tie him back to a crime that he had nothing to do with.
Yeah, don't go to the police. Just burn everything and try to hide things. That's the way to go about it.
So Stefan testified that he was working both on May 13th and the 14th. He provided records that proved this, while Darrell, Wint's half-brother, also testified and denied having any role in the murders and apparently had a solid alibi. So many of Wint's family and friends testified against him. His stepmom said she had no idea where he was Wednesday for the entire day, no idea where he was for part of the day on Thursday. So after 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. And Mike, what do you think they found Duran Wint?
Guilty as hell.
Yes, guilty as hell of 20 counts total, including first-degree murder and kidnapping. On February 1st, 2019, he was given 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole. So for a time, the brick mansion that stood at 3201 Woodland Drive, it was a constant reminder to community members of what the horrors of what that family lived through, what went on in that house for nearly 22 hours until these 4 innocent people met their violent end. The windows were boarded, char marks scarred the brick, while a chain link fence enclosed the property. 6 months after their deaths, the property was put on the market for $3.5 million. The address was changed to 2802 32nd Street Northwest. Apparently, this happens sometimes when there's violent crimes that happen in a house. And the listing indicated that the home was fire damaged. So the property was quickly purchased under asking price at $3 million, and the home was torn down in 2017. And in its place, a newly built mega mansion was put up. It's 6 bedrooms, 6.5 bathrooms. It's modern, and it was priced at $8.5 million. And this hit the market in 2024. The people who have everything to do, it was put in an LLC, so they're anonymous. So despite the passage of 10 years, because this May marks 10 years that this happened, the weight of the DC's darkest moments, it still lingers when 4 innocent people were taken from this world. Sava was a hardworking, dedicated father. Amy was a devoted mother. Philip was a 10-year-old that was wise beyond his years, and his sisters reflect that he is eternally 10 years old. And they all had dreams of their futures. Philip dreamed of being a race car driver, and Sava was in the process 2 days away from opening his dream dojo. Vera was a sweet soul who was caught in the wrong place. And they were robbed of any dreams that they had for their future by a monster that was driven by greed and opportunity, that left 2 teenage daughters behind to forever feel the loss for losing those that they love the most. So Katerina recalls the moment that a dean pulled her away from practice on Thursday, May 14th, 2015. He brought her into his office, and at the time, all she could think of, oh my gosh, should I do something wrong? Am I getting a medal? What's going on? And then she heard the words, there was a fire, and her life changed forever. And weeks later, she and Abigail were tasked with walking back to the place that they called home for nearly 14 years, where so many memories had been created. And it was a place that they had only just come together as a family to celebrate Easter. And as they made their way upstairs with dread, they took a deep breath and knew that that's where everything happened. Katerina found the room that was once her own, now blackened and burned, knowing it was a spot that her brother had been tortured and ultimately possibly burned to death in that very space. And it was just too much to imagine. And she ran to her parents' bedroom and opened their drawers, hoping to get some sense of them there. But the clothing inside, it just smelled like smoke. So 2 weeks after they became orphans, Abigail graduated. Not only did they miss this incredible moment, they weren't there to see her get married. Excuse me.
It's incredibly sad. It's like some human vile piece of garbage. Like the whole family's doing great. I'm sure, nobody's perfect, but they're pretty darn close. And everything is going well in their lives. They're doing things, or people are graduating. It's just like everything's going great. And this piece of human filth comes in and ends everything for 4 human beings, just for like no particular reason besides freaking 40 grand, which is not going to change anyone's life. I know it's a lot of money. I'm not trying to say it's a little bit, but it's not changing anyone's life. It's how much, an average American makes in a year. Like that's not a whole lot to live on, after a year. Like, what are you going to do?
Then what?
Right.
And Sava didn't even get the chance to see that his daughter Abigail had a baby and named him after, her father. And Katerina last saw her mom when they were out college hunting. When Amy dropped her daughter off back at school, she handed her a necklace that she was wearing. And this is something that she always cherishes.
Yeah.
My heart just breaks for these girls.
It sucks.
So despite her immense loss, in her victim impact statement, Katerina reflected that she chooses not to fight hate with hate. And she thinks that maybe if there was more love and human decency around, that something this horrific would never happen. And she chooses to spend her time trying to forgive those that have wronged her, rather than prolonging the pain. And she sees forgiveness as a choice and something that sometimes it's the only thing that you have control over. And that is the horrible quadruple murder inside of a DC mansion.
That's, really, really hard, tough story. Did they ever hear, like, Duran's still alive, right? Duran, that piece of human garbage, did he ever say why? Well, he did it. I mean, obviously money.
It's the money. That's it.
Why them? Why them? Why that time?
He knew Sava. He had worked for Sava's company.
12 years prior.
Yep, I'm sure he was desperate. Everyone was kicking him out. His life was spiraling. There was a voicemail he left his girlfriend saying something about his family, like, I'm going to take them all out, or something violent like that. He was spiraling. He was just a horrible human being, and Sava probably popped up in his head, like, there's opportunity there.
He said, I'm going to take them all out, talking about the Savopoulos family?
No, just his
anybody?
own family.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
just a terrible person.
Man, what a jeez. Man, it's just like you just wish he never lived, because there'd be like so much better things in the world if that piece of crap didn't live. And there he is sitting in a jail right now, in prison.
The thing that always stuck with me about this case was the contact that the family had with people while all of this was happening, that there was that like little inkling that they could have been saved. They could have been.
And that's one of the things to take from this case. Like, these stories need to be told. So if we're ever in the same situation, like, just know if somebody's holding you and whatever, like, you're probably going to die, right? Like, and I'm not saying anything against the Savopoulos family.
No.
They tried to get out of it. I'm sure they were told, yeah, as soon as I get the money, I'll leave you guys alone,
Right.
whatever, forget my face. And like 50 grand to the Savopoulos family is like nothing. Probably. So it's just like, man, and they were like, okay, we'll just pay this guy off. We'll be good. And like, forget, and then we'll really upgrade our security. Everything will be good. But no, man, like it's like, if this ever happens to us, I guarantee I'm going down swinging.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was the thing that so many of their friends were just commenting about, just what amazing people they were and how giving they were, that they were not like tight with their money. They wanted to share it. And they knew for sure, with Philip's life being at risk, that Sava would have said to him, please, I will give you however much cash you want. Just go. Just go. And you know that this guy promised him, I will get the money, like you just said, and go.
Right.
And leave you alive.
Otherwise, I mean, there's no reason to even get them the money.
Right.
But man, that's
for
so bad.
$40,000 for people who were innocent, lovely, amazing human beings lost their lives that day. And what they went through in between is just haunting to me. When I hear potentially Philip in the background of that enhanced video, I mean, I just can't help but cry just to think what that little boy was feeling at that moment and how scared, being in his sister's room, how scared he must have been.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for the whole Savopoulos family. You just got to be more than a gut punch. Gut punch is nothing compared to that.
Their
You'd rather be gut punched a million times than this to happen to you. It's just so horrible.
And Katerina was commenting how she had been looking forward to prom and looking for dresses, and all of a sudden she's picking out caskets.
Yeah, like you'd give up prom and dresses a million times over to have your family back. You know, it's like
100%.
that's where like the things that happen in life, you can't take them for granted. Like just going for a walk with your family and like just enjoy yourselves. If you guys are out there, you know, Katerina and Abigail would love to be in your position.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for telling their story. It's so sad. And thank you all for listening. We really, really appreciate it. Couldn't do this without you. And we're just here to tell everybody's story. You know, if you have ideas, you can go ahead and go over to our Instagram and click on the show notes and then, you know, click into suggesting cases and things. We get a lot of those suggestions.
Yeah.
But Allison, you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. That was a really tough one for me. Sorry.
No, don't ever apologize. You're a human being. Don't apologize for being human and feeling sad for people. I mean, you're feeling at 1/1,000,000th of what this family did.
I know.
So thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. If you love what we do, we would appreciate you supporting us financially if you can through Patreon or Apple subscriptions. And if you can't support us that way, that's totally cool. Just go ahead on over to YouTube, subscribe there, and make sure you're following us if you're listening on their podcast. Whatever podcast platform you're listening, follow us and subscribe so that the next episode comes at you.
Mike's working hard on those YouTube videos.
I am. You can almost tell I've got a little more life in me now. I was just kind of dead for like, what, 2 years? About 2 years.
Well, when you're married to me, you know, I'll suck the life out of you. I'm like a black widow.
I'm just thinking of jokes and things of that nature. Being
why does your mind always go there?
I wish it didn't. I wish it didn't. Okay. I wish it
Gosh.
didn't. But we got to go, folks. We got to talk about some things off air. So, all right.
And until next time, bye.